Earth debate live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Arwin, Brian's Logic, Neil, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Gilded, so welcome one and all.
How freaking kind, jeez.
Good morning, everybody.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Someone put a
it's a
collar
pleasure.
on Neil. Hold him back.
So in the pre-show, I was informed of the ongoing saga. Started initially, first stone thrown, I might add, by Jaren at us for claiming that science proves your outcome when adhering to the methodology of science. And that particular statement has gone on for now a good month, I would say. In terms of its usefulness as a tool to teach our audiences, I believe it's been extremely successful, based on the comments alone, which I've managed to read all the way through my holiday over the last week, which was great. Lots and lots of people who are seemingly very intelligent, spotting precisely what the actual dealio here is, which is that we have a confirmation of a non-existent background medium called ether, backed by science, in quotes. And when, like with the Ballers back in 2017, they were asked, well, what is your science? What science do you actually have for your claim? Well, science doesn't prove anything. Why would you be asking me for science when I've said I've got science and experimentation? It doesn't really prove anything, so why are you asking? That's really the dealio that we're having to deal with here. Now, the fact that it's continued for this long, fine, no problem. The fact that people like Flatsoid are still engaged with people like Jaren, who are seemingly garnishing an ever-increasing list of enemies, fine, fine, because it disseminates the information that we are all about and have been for the last 4 years, if not longer, which is that science has been used against us. It's been used to claim we're on a ball. The whole body of science proved we're on a ball back in 2016, until we started asking for science. Well, let's have a look at it then. Oh, what a shock, they didn't have any. And here we are with Flat Earthers doing the exact same thing, pulling the exact same magic trick on our own brethren in Flat Earth. So, wonderful. So, if possible, I'm hoping John will regale us with a particular baller-esque instance which has kept this little flame alight. You there, John?
Yeah, I'm here.
In your own time.
Well, I think Adam would probably be the best one for telling this. He's the one that discovered it.
Fair enough. We'll do a bit of housekeeping, then hopefully Adam will join at some point, although he does actually have a job. So we might not. We'll see. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth.
What makes you think it's a horizon? Do they say the horizon is the curve of the Earth?
Yes, they do. They say it's measured in the Earth curve maths as the horizon being the tangent point between you and what you're observing being blocked by that physical Earth curve. They say is the horizon. Indeed.
Yeah, but that's in the Earth curve math.
Yes.
Right? Isn't that just like, yeah, it's that, but it's actually in the Earth curve map, not the actual horizon.
Let me just clear this up because Arwen's just immediately irritated me. He's asking, are they saying the horizon is Earth curve? And Arwen's response is, no. It's only saying it's Earth curve in Earth curve maths. Yet you can't get much more, to the point and concise in that regard then. It's definitely claimed to be Earth curve then.
Yeah, because they had boats going over it.
No, they have Earth curve math. They just don't have Earth curve.
Yes, that's
So
more
if they're
like
talking
it. Far
about
less
the
irritating.
Earth curve in the Earth curve math. That there might be Earth curve in the Earth curve math, but not in the Earth.
And the stress of Arwen caused by Arwen, washed away by Arwen. Thank you, Arwen.
You're
But wait a
welcome.
second,
and-
they still use
sorry.
the claim that boats go over the horizon, though.
In
I
the
just
Earth
heard it
curve
the other
maths.
day.
Pay attention to Arwen. Sometimes. 50% of the time. When he's not Baldwin.
I heard what he said.
Right, it's only Earth curve in the Earth curve maths. The horizon is not Earth curve.
Yeah, and the refraction that they try and claim is the reason why the horizon is not our curve. The refraction that they try and claim is the reason why that's not our curve. It's not refraction either.
Yeah, it's called refraction. It's called refraction in the Earth curve maths, but it's not refraction.
But it's
you're right.
not refraction in reality. What it actually is, though, but it doesn't matter what it's called in the Earth curve maths. What it is an extension of a radius value, a physical extension of a geometric radius value
Right.
that they don't have any measurement for.
Right there in the value. So terrestrial refraction, otherwise known as atmospheric refraction, is 7/6 of the radius. It is very much specifically a mathematical derivation of the presupposed Earth radius value. Any evidence of Earth radius, that's the R value.
Hang on. What is the rush?
Because it's
Okay,
quick fire, it's housekeeping. Quick dust around,
I'm
quick
trying to add.
vacuum.
Refraction in celestial navigation has to do with air, not 7/6R.
That's what
the
Brian's saying.
density of air.
Yeah, that's what Brian's saying. He's saying refraction, when we talk about Earth curve and they refract the horizon, is also not refraction. On screen now with Simon Dan's joyous face as the example. They've got a tangent point. This is Earth curve. Yeah, formerly known as Earth curve, hence the housekeeping question, because now they're saying it's a refracted bent line based on the radius. Standard form refraction 7/6 of that radius that we'll get to in a second in the housekeeping. But that isn't what we see. This is just a bent line in orthographic view in mathematics. Real refraction that 10th man just detailed, used in celestial navigation, what, light deviating from straight when we see light? Yeah, that's refraction. It's just not this. This is a bent line in orthographic view. Light doesn't
So
reach the side of your own head in reality because you aren't seeing the side of your own head.
But what they're showing there is not 7/6R either. 7/6R is it's not like their eye bending down over their globe. It's their globe actually extending in size in front of your eyes.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
up-
What?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah, that's
It's a
7/6R.
hologram. It's a giant up projected over the curve hologram.
No,
Remember?
well, no. What Brian's saying is 7/6R does not give you the pictorial example on screen where you have a sphere Earth, admittedly now Simon Dan's head, and a second line of sight when it's an orthographic view that curves around the first. 7/6R is merely them flattening out Earth's curvature at the radius level. That's what it actually is. Brian's absolutely correct. It's just flattening it out a bit, right, Brian?
Yeah, make it all much bigger so it all looks flat. That's
So
what it is.
to account for it looking flat, well, yeah, it's 7/6 of the radius. What we see when you're claiming in the maths that we've got a tangent point with a straight line, well, then you bend the radius value at 7/6 of it. You don't actually have a bent line. Like I say, this isn't reality. It's an orthographic view. So what do they actually do? They just increase the size of Earth to flatten it out a bit to account for when it looks flat. But even then, that isn't what you see. You don't see the side of your own head. Any evidence the R value? Go on, Brian.
I was going
John.
to say sea level, all this stuff that y'all are talking about takes place below sea level in their mathematics.
That's correct. Yeah, that's
I like
also
the
in the
way
maths,
that
isn't it, John?
that's
That's also in the maths. If you go and look at their Earth curve maths, they've got the horizontal plane and the horizontal line of sight both depicted in the maths. It's necessity. The maths is derived from a flat plane, so it's very much in there in the maths. In Mick West's diagram, it has to be. Oh, here it is. Check it out. Marked bold, black, surface level. What's that? Eye level and surface level? What are these two horizontals doing in there? Why are they in the middle of space? And why is it called surface level? Yeah, it's right there hidden in plain sight, ladies and gentlemen. Earth's flat, and it has to be measured that way to derive your sphere mathematics. That's why you've got eye level and surface level parallel in this maths.
And they're going to calculate the dip between those two parallels and call it our curve.
Exactly, Brian. Oh, what fun it is to be back. Any evidence of the R value?
No.
I still wanted to make a little comment that I couldn't get through because you guys are so enthusiastic, but I really like the way 10th Man divided the R refraction from the air refraction. Air refraction and R refraction. They sound very similar, but yet they're so different. One exists, the other doesn't.
The only problem with that
Well,
is
the one,
our refraction
is-
sounds like our refraction if you've got a bit of a Brummie accent.
Burmese aside, the celestial is based on the air temperature in the barometer. In their version, it's 7/6R.
Indeed. Obviously, we're not going to get an R value, so any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, I said there was no evidence. When you said there's no evidence of the R value, I said no.
I was going to ask you for all of that. You're still going to ask for an R value? I guess you have to.
We're like
The
on a
stars,
delay. This is getting me very, very tetchy. Let's try and stick to the housekeeping question currently on the table, because then we'll get through them within the first 10 minutes. And hopefully Adam will join if he's listening out. If not, John, can you regale us with the story from earlier?
What happened with axial rotation?
That's what I'm
It
getting.
started moving.
I'm going to move it
Alright.
on one, and then hopefully that will bring things back in line to the present with the actual question if I move it on one. Rather
Alright,
than
so
The
that-
question displaced because of Coriolis deviation.
what
so the
Coriolis deviation
stars-
would that be? Well done. That's a claim. What Coriolis deviation?
So the housekeeping question. It rotated away because of Coriolis deviation.
Where's my
Not
tumbleweed?
the actual Earth.
I
Okay,
say
anyway.
the star movement is evidence of axial rotation.
What? No, I didn't say that.
I
that's-
say
that's
that.
another
Talking
claim.
about the arguments Coriolis
Well, I've actually got the
deviation.
argument from Neil now. Finally. Sorry, do you want to repeat that, Neil?
I say star rotation is proof of axial rotation. Prove me wrong.
So that's the second reference frame. So Earth would be a non-inertial turning reference frame moving underneath the stars at 15 degrees an hour. So you're conceding that Earth is moving 1,000 miles an hour at the equator with you on it as a non-inertial turning reference frame then? Yes.
I didn't say that.
But that's what it means. If you're saying that the stars aren't actually turning as we see them appear to turn, it's because we are turning beneath them that they have that apparent motion, then that would ipso facto mean that we are, by your claim, on a non-inertial turning reference frame moving underneath the stars to cause their apparent deflection in the inertial reference frame. Ergo, your claim is one of Coriolis effect, something that Arwin joked about but didn't specifically make the claim. If you say star rotation proves we're spinning, you're saying star rotation, i.e. the stars don't move, we move beneath. Correct? Yes.
Yes.
All
That would
right.
shorten-
So
that would shorten flight times. If we are on a non-inertial turning reference frame of turning at 15 degrees an hour, then a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles would only take an hour and a half as Earth turned underneath the plane. Also, the stars would stop. So as soon as you left the non-inertial turning reference frame of a claim to be spinning Earth, they would stop moving. The stars.
Well, what if the Earth was the thing that's actually standing still and the entire universe is spinning around us?
Well, then that undoes the heliocentric claim that Neil's making, Arwin. Thank you for the
Then we
contrapositive,
become
which is what we
geocentric.
observably see.
Maybe it's just a matter of perspective then.
Arwin,
It is until you claim it's a non-inertial turning reference frame that's causing the motion, i.e. Earth's turning and the stars are not. Then you've got an Earth that's turning underneath things as a non-inertial turning reference frame, like a roundabout. You look at the tree that's not moving, and as you turn on the roundabout, the tree looks like it takes a circular motion as you look up at it. Well, that's what's claimed to be happening according to Neil in the stars. The stars don't move and Earth turns beneath. Well, if Earth turns beneath the stars and bullets and footballs, because that's Coriolis effect, then it turns beneath aeroplanes and shortens their flight times.
Yeah, but what if you actually stand still on the middle of a pillar surrounded by a giant centrifuge? Then the entire universe is spinning around you while if you close your eyes, you don't feel any motion because you're standing still. Well, maybe that's what's happening. Maybe the
stand
entire
still.
Can't stand
universe
still.
is spinning around
Correct,
us.
you're still rotating.
do that.
Even if you're at the center, you'd still be rotating.
No, on a separate pillar, right? That doesn't rotate with the whole thing.
That's fascinating. Sorry, are you making this as a claim, defending it as a current Western world religious viewpoint like heliocentrism, or is this just spitballing some idea of having a mechanical object with a pillar in the middle and a centrifuge on the outside, which is preposterous?
Not yet, but it might become in the near future.
Oh, joy.
Someday science will prove it, but right now we can't.
How do you get a
Well,
non-inertial turning reference?
Go on, John.
How do you have a non-inertial turning reference frame without a measurable radius value?
You don't. Prerequisite. If it's going to be turning, it's going to have a radius value.
Yeah, but there's people on our side who are currently claiming that they have a spiritual belief that exists outside of our 3D reality, and the proof of it is things like so-called pendulums.
What? Focal
Yeah.
pendulum? What?
Yeah, that's a proof of ether. So-called
What?
pendulum.
That's
Focal
correct.
pendulum
What's
is a
it said
proof of
it-
ether. Okay, so essentially,
They're all saying it. Sorry.
it's a pendulum. So they're saying that the pendulums drift, and the reason pendulums drift is because ether causes pendulums
Ether.
to drift. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct. That's literally
Okay.
what's being claimed.
Let's just break this down for a second then. What's a pendulum?
A plumb bob.
And a plumb bob that's swinging. What's the inherent property of a pendulum in its motion?
Forward and back.
So, to be blunt, pendulums do not drift.
In space.
No.
Okay. So what we are being told
But-
by ether believers is that pendulums do drift because of ether, correct?
Because
Yeah.
space is drifting. Yeah, space
Yes,
is
that's
drifting.
correct. That's what they're saying.
Unless they're too heavy, then they don't. That's what I was told.
Oh my God. Let me get this straight. We were already, before we've even clarified this claim, umming and ahhing about whether or not pendulums do or do not drift. And whether or not it's caused by something like space drifting. Okay, let's get it straight from the offset. Pendulums and gyros do not drift. The inherent principle of a pendulum is that it moves back and forth, and not side to side figure of eight. Pendulums do not do that. So to say, because pendulums drift, pendulums don't drift. Okay, we all
No,
clear?
it's only an apparent drift. It's only an apparent drift, Nathan. The space itself is drifting, so the pendulum, in essence, is just swinging back and forth.
So this non-phenomena of a pendulum not drifting is having the explanation for its drift when it isn't drifting being something else drifting, like the stars. Correct?
Well,
Sure,
not
yeah.
well,
But pendulums
not-
aren't drifting.
yeah, but the non-drifting pendulum is proof of a spiritual belief that a group of people hold.
Who's making this claim? I want to rip them a new one for their complete idiocy. They're explaining ether with the drift of a pendulum. Pendulums don't
Everybody
drift.
on the other side. You asked
Pendulums don't
who?
drift.
All
You
of them.
said them earlier.
Sorry, are they actually doing this? Is just let's
Yeah,
have some
if you watch-
names. Let's
if you
hear
watch-
who's
if you-
saying that
Yeah,
the
if you
ether
watch-
is
I'm
explaining
trying to tell
the
you.
drift pendulums don't experience.
If you watch my time over on Witsit's channel, that's one of towards the end of it. He claimed so-called pendulums as proof of ether.
For cult's pendulum, so a special pendulum Foucault's pendulum doesn't drift either. I can show you plenty of examples of people letting off a Foucault pendulum in a shopping mall and it not doing what it needs to do to make its example, which is drift. It just behaves like a, let me think, what's the word? A pendulum. In other words, it doesn't drift.
Well,
Now, if you let it go at a very specific angle, or you have a mechanism to make it drift, then it'll drift. But without either forcing it to drift temporarily, because eventually it'll find its center and just go back and forth. That's what pendulums do. Now, my grandfather used to be a clockmaker. He used to have a lathe with drill bits for watches that were the size of a human hair. They were the tiniest drill bits you've ever seen. And he used to sit there with his monocle fixing people's watches, expensive watches. And, as a bit of a hobby, he used to muck around with clocks, big clocks, because they were fun. Cuckoo clocks and, clocks. But they were always chiming and ringing. And you know what they all had? Pendulums. Now, did they all stop because the fucking ether started making them drift? No. Of course not. They eventually run out of steam and stop. That's about it. But a pendulum in its motion is specific. It's not drifting. Why are we having proof of ether come from the drifting pendulums that they don't have? This is so absurd. Are they just taking the piss out of their audience?
Well, we
Well,
got a bunch of cuckoos there.
I had, now, a punching bag is basically a pendulum, yeah? Like, so is a hanging flower basket. They hang down, it's a weight that's hanging from a center point, right? That can move when it's touched, right? I didn't want to have it because there's something wrong with the chain and I couldn't take it down. So during my whole time on Witsit's channel, over my left shoulder, there was this boxing bag hanging. And he started, after correcting him about the Foucault pendulum and about how they actually, all the nonsense claims that go along with them, and I corrected him about stuff I don't think he was aware of. I said to him, there's a boxing bag over my shoulder there for the whole time that we've been here, and it hasn't moved at all. And he told me, but that's too heavy. I don't think he's ever seen a Foucault pendulum.
I just think this is ludicrous. I mean, at this point, you've got to wonder, what is the motivation behind this complete nonsense?
Oh, now you're wondering why? You just don't know what the motivation is? Oh, boy.
I wish I hadn't said what I just said. Let's move on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, hang on, Nathan, what is the initial claim of the Foucault pendulum? What were they trying to prove with it? Initial claim.
What's the inertial plane? I don't know. It's not my claim. Initial? What's the initial claim?
Claim.
Gosh, it's a simple question. The ballers, when they cite the Foucault pendulum, what are they trying to prove?
Rotation.
Earth's turn.
Yeah, axial rotation.
Okay. So now someone else is citing it for ether? Is ether
I don't know the claim.
rotation?
It's not my claim. I don't know what you want me to say.
No. I'm trying to see what's going on here. So if before Witsit and those people said the Foucault pendulum proves the ether, okay, what was it used for? Axial rotation. Is ether synonymous with axial rotation?
No.
Yes.
They just hold on. They just hijack some of the affirm and the consequent fallacies that they utilize.
So the Foucault pendulum could be used for anything if I'm going to be fallacious with it.
Why is it a specific pendulum? If this effect is true, why do you have to have a specific man's pendulum? When in reality we all know that pendulum doesn't behave like a pendulum unless you make it behave in a certain way. And if you don't make it behave that way, it just behaves like a pendulum. Now, I've got a few pendulums on screen. Let's just get this squared away before we move on for explanations for things that aren't happening. Where is the example of a drifting pendulum?
Well, it doesn't. Pendulums, unless they're made to move, they don't do it. Either by human beings, wind, something. They just are not going to do it. They just hang straight down like a plumb bob. Do you know what I mean? That's what they do.
I mean,
You can
Adam's
make a
here now,
plumb bob
so...
swing as well.
Okay, Adam, how you doing?
Afternoon, guys.
Hello. John gave us a rendition of some research that he'd done earlier into a paper that had been cherry-picked from. We'll rattle our way through the last few housekeeping questions. I'm hoping you'll regale us. If you don't know what I'm talking about, John will jog your memory. I'm sure you do.
I do roughly. I'm literally on my way home. So give me 10, 15 minutes and I promise QE to keep it succinct for this evening. So
Oh,
I'm not
right.
over
You've
yet.
been given instructions, have you? God damn, tell him to sod off.
I view it more as a request that I may or may not fulfill. But yeah, give me 10, 15 minutes. I should be home and then I'll give you an update on where we're at with it.
And by tell him to sod off, I mean all hail QE, much respect, and he taught me basically everything I know, so I should have a bit more respect. But there we go. Anyway, any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, wouldn't Newton's laws of motion, even though they are not applicable supposedly now, wouldn't they have gotten in the way of a claim of a Foucault pendulum? Sorry, never mind that.
Yes, they would have.
But they weren't right, so who cares?
Yeah, but they take place on an inertial plane, not inertial turning reference frame.
Sorry, it's just when Nathan. Anyway, Nathan, there's no evidence for gravity. Sorry about that.
Right, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, they have all the DVs, all the effects, all the natural effects, but they can't manipulate their IVs because their IVs are outside their purview of control.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Well, if you claim P waves and S waves, you'll need a flat plane for the return signals.
Bit like you'll need a flat plane to
So-
claim the differential between those lines of sight that you can draw out an orthographic view and what was it called in McWest's diagram? Surface level. Yeah, you'll need a flat plane for that too. Isn't it interesting how many things turn out to need a flat plane? It's because Earth's flat, ladies and gentlemen.
John, why would you need a flat plane for P wave and S waves when the signal hits and it bounces back?
Well, you're measuring the return angle of the wave, right? For the
Mhm.
signal. So you'll need a baseline to measure that against.
So if it hits a curved surface, is that what you're trying to say? It'd be different, or what are you
Can't get an
saying?
angle.
No, you can't get an angle from it if it's a curved surface.
Right, that's my whole point.
But you'll need a flat Earth for that claim. If you're going to say P waves and S waves, we'll start laughing at you more than we used to.
I don't think they realize that. They don't get it.
I said this.
Well, they kind of get it.
They will with time, with us going over it, as John is doing an admirable job of repeating, which is what it's all about. I got the best compliment ever from a baller. Someone was like, although he said, "Oh, it's actually now happening over at Flatsoid." Shout out to Flatsoid. Flatsoid's just got himself a new computer and is full tilt, balls to the wall, getting on with it and doing flat Earth content on an almost daily basis. So he'll get into his stride. He'll hopefully get a pattern, like a time that he goes regularly live. He will calm down eventually, or will burn out, one or the other. But hopefully it won't come to that. But in the meantime, this is like when someone's bright shining candle is as bright as it can be. Hopefully, like I say, it doesn't burn out. But go and check out Flatsoid's channel. He's putting loads of stuff out. It's great. Really enjoying your stuff, by the way, Flatsoid. But while I was on holiday, someone left a comment saying, this channel's dead. It's the same as it was in 2015. Where it's happening is over at Flatzoids. I was like, number one, great that you're promoting Flatzoids because that's good. But that I take as a compliment. If we've had that level of consistency from 2015, it just shows that the arguments haven't changed that much since 2015. Because, yeah, we do go over the same stuff on a daily basis. Why can I get away with that? There's so few topics in YouTube, and I do mean a tiny number of evergreen topics. Now, most evergreen topics are totally saturated. I'll give you an example, because it's something I'm interested in at the moment. Computing. Evergreen. There will always be YouTube channels about computers. Always. It's an evergreen subject. Now take a different contrasting example that's definitely not evergreen. Now there are our own that I could use, and I might do a couple of those as well. But if you take the Johnny Depp trial, definitely not an evergreen subject, right? But that is the contrast between what is most of the content on YouTube, which is here today, gone tomorrow. Bright burning stars that burn out doing what they do, and then the subject itself dies along with the content producer because they're burnt out in the time that they've put themselves in there. Now me, I didn't want that. I wanted to be a YouTuber for a career. Well, if you're doing that, you've got to have an evergreen subject. So then, whatever it was, 2014 or 2015, drops Flat Earth right into my lap, and I'm like, wow, an evergreen subject that's not saturated. Absolutely glorious. And why? Why does it still have potential for people to gain interest when they've been subscribed, Patreoned up? Why would they still do that? Well, because, number one, it's a massive paradigm change. And number two, like with this P waves and S waves, this is the point of this, by the way, you've got a constant stream of things from your everyday library, if you want, that show you how Earth is flat and how it must be measured that way. Now, obviously, we don't know them all. All we know is the propaganda that we're plagued with when we do research on Google. But you haven't got to look very far through the books to find how things are actually done. And people are taught to do these things today from the books. Now, those skills are never going to die on account of the fact that Earth's going to be flat next year. It didn't unfold from a ball. We haven't actually seen any physical change to our reality. It's always been flat, and it's always been dealt with as flat. So there's always something new coming to us personally, because we're on the cutting edge of this subject. For me personally, it's so exciting. Every day I get excited about this subject, because it is exciting when you wander out into the normie society. Everyone's plagued with the same heliocentric nonsense that you were when you were part of that religion, unbeknownst to you. So, fantastic stuff. We can find things like P waves and S waves and start asserting them not only in the the debunking. Oh no, that doesn't prove we're on a ball when you say there's a molten core because of P waves and S waves. In fact, it's a flat Earth proof. How are you actually taking this measurement? With a return angle measurement? All right, you're going to need a flat plane for that. Well, that's a lovely thing to be saying here in 2022, isn't it? P waves and S waves, if we'd have just dropped this subject and got sick of it or become anti-flat earthers, would be in the back of our mind as proving a sphere. When you look into the nitty-gritty and break down how it actually works, it requires a flat Earth.
So the person who left that comment is saying, skip your fundamental principles and let's get on to something that sounds exciting, but we stick to the fundamental principles of what the Socratic method and what science is. And it's the knife that's sharper than any knife in any debate, and it cuts through all the fallacies. Is that what he wants us to do? Skip that fundamental principles we use?
I get it. I get the sentiment, right? When you're describing that knife, that's a great analogy. At some point, that piece of metal's been ripped from Earth itself, hasn't it? Well, that particular stage, when you see that shiny bit of metal that you're eventually going to forge into the shiny knife, well, there's various different stages that people get excited about. Some people get the most excited about seeing it coming out of the Earth and go, wow. Obviously, that's comparable to hearing, for me, Math Powerland go, well, when you talk about flat Earth and the Earth being flat, and you go, what? That's the shiny metal coming out of the ground. Well, other end of the extreme, it's been forged, it's been made, it's been shaped, it's been pressed, it's been hammered, it's cooled down, and now it's on the wheel. It's getting sharpened. Sparks flying everywhere. Now, for me, that's the most exciting part, because every so often, while we're here going sharpening this knife, going, look how sharp that is, man. That's so pointy. Someone comes from behind you, taps you on the shoulder, goes, "Earth's a ball, dickhead!" And you take that knife and you shove it through them. You go, wow, this is so sharp. It chopped that person in half instantly. Wow, isn't that amazing? Then you realise something else, which is hopefully going to segue into Adam, if he's there, or if he's not, don't worry. But you look at the blade. Oh, brill. You look at the blade and go, both sides of this blade are sharp. And then someone taps you on the shoulder from behind and goes, "Science doesn't prove anything. Look at my experiments for ether." And you go, whew, and the knife slices them in half too. You go, oh dear, this doesn't only work on ballers, does it? Works on flat earthers too. Gotta be careful with this. Could kill a lot of people. Anyway, enough metaphors about killing and knives. You there, Adam?
Well, I don't think Adam is there yet.
No, fair enough.
But,
I'm going to need about
could I-
6
oh,
or
yeah.
7 minutes and I'll be there. I've literally just pulled up, so I've just got to unload the car and I'll be in this shed soon.
I have
Give
a
him a
question.
bloody chance.
Do you like
I have a question.
my stabby metaphor?
Can you let Brian talk,
like it.
please?
Go ahead, Brian. Everyone else, shush.
Yeah. There's a question I have, and I asked it to John and Refracted Curvature John and Chocolate, I think it was yesterday. For 7 years, we've been asked, where's your flat Earth map? Right? This is what we're getting for 7 years. Now, the response we always give is all maps are flat, right? Now, we can actually give them flat Earth maps. We can actually give them actually, no doubt about it, flat Earth maps when we give them the most accurate maps in the world, which are OS maps, right? 2D and 3D OS maps. But a better question is, even though this is an oxymoron, but it's a better question, would be, where is your globe map? Which map is the globe map? Because I have yet to find or see one map or have one map actually claimed by our opposition as being the globe map. Is it the Mercator projection? Is it the Gore-Peters projection?
Flat.
Is it
Flat.
the AE projection?
How
Flat.
about just being to scale?
Hold on.
Hang
So
on.
far, hold on. So far, I've listed 3 flat ones.
Yeah, hang on. Is it the Universal Transverse Mercator?
Also
That's
flat.
another flat one. Where is the globe map? I know it's an oxymoron.
Well, let's see if
Where
we
is
can
your
run down
globe
one.
map?
Hold on, I've got one that's been claimed to me personally. Google Earth.
It's
Google
not
Earth,
the
that's not a
scale.
map.
Where's the scale map?
That's not a map.
It's also
Google Earth is
flat.
Not a map
Hold on, that's.
until you.
Hold on.
It is. Hang on. It's not a map till you zoom in, and then it's a map because it becomes it uses tile coordinates, X, Y, Z coordinates. Then it's a map.
Yeah,
But
because
when you're zoomed out,
don't.
not a map.
You got to labour that. Stop. You're going too fast. Let the knife slide up them. Right. So you say it's on X and Y coordinates, right? So you're talking about a flat terrain, and you can prove it in Google Earth. You can draw an elevation profile, and you can draw it across the entirety of the known world, and it'll bring up a graph on the bottom and show you how high and how low the ground is in relation to its overall entirety. And that entire area, the whole world, is shown in Google Earth as being flat.
Yeah. But Google Earth
And
itself
not the
is not.
scale. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just wanted to
That's not the glo-
emphasize. Where's the scale globe map? You know, the scale. Where is it?
There isn't one. You can't have one. It doesn't work. You can't wrap a flat world around a spherical surface because Earth is actually flat. So when you try and project it, you fail. So you have to project it from the celestial sphere model over a flat plane onto a globe and then back out onto a cylinder and then roll out the cylinder. That's how you get to what they can call a globe projection. That's how they get away with calling it a globe projection. But the heart, the start of it, all starts with their latitude and longitude lines and utilization of the celestial sphere model. That would be angles to the stars from your flat plane that you measure the angles from.
But the thing about it is, if you look at the cylinder model, the cylinder map, most of those, let's say like the Mercator map, will have Greenland totally oversized and Africa totally undersized. And I remember back in 2015, NASA images that were supposedly images of the Earth from space. And I remember that they were showing the Mercator projection, right? Some of these, right? The Mercator projection is not the correct projection for sizes of continents and countries and the positioning of the continents and countries. If you want a more correct size of dimensions,
careful with your next words.
Hang on. If you want a more map that is more correct for dimensions, it's claimed that the God Peters map is the correct map for sizes and dimensions, but not for placement.
Yes, thank you for being careful with your words. Yes, it is claimed that the
was
God
always
Peters is more accurate. That is their claim, yes.
The point is that we have all these different maps, right? And none of them, for a start, are a globe map. And none of them have even been seen. I have yet to hear one of them being actually claimed as the globe map. All they've ever said to us is that all maps are globe maps. Like, that's not an answer. That's a load of rubbish. For instance, I had Rob, right? I asked Rob if he could wrap the Gleason's map around the globe, make it back into a globe. And he has 20 years of experience with CAD. And he even tried it with his friends who have as much and more experience than him, and they couldn't do it. Something's
it can't
wrong.
be done. Yeah, that's something I knew from very early on. It cannot be done. And there is no globe model to present. So, again, I originally gave this credit to Cathexis incorrectly, all hail Quantum Eraser, who gave the example, and just asked Cathexis, or told Cathexis, that they don't have a globe model. If you ask them to present you with a heliocentric globe model, they won't give you one. There isn't one. So that's what he nonchalantly did with, I believe it was Gem Panda. Just said, while he was babbling on about the globe model, he said, "Can I see it?" And there's a sudden panic. Well, they didn't have one to present. Because there isn't.
Well, not the scale, anyway.
Well,
give me one that isn't a scale. Give me any.
They still don't have one.
Give me any, Arwin. You've got till the end of the show. You've got 10 minutes. Just have a quick Google. Go and get me a globe model. Any globe model.
Define model.
There's supposed to be an all-encompassing, perfectly to scale, representative of the world we live on globe model, isn't there? We hear about it all the time. Let's see that.
Yeah, well, there actually is a globe model. It just does not match reality. What it is a circle,
Bigger.
An orthographic circle.
I thought you were going to talk about a figure of the Earth. Okay, figure of the Earth was the closest I got, but yeah, okay.
I have a question.
Go on.
If the Earth is a sphere and we navigate it as a sphere, then why would we apply a transformative equation to it?
That makes no sense. You wouldn't need to apply a transformative equation to make it spherical. If it was spherical, it would just be spherical. You just navigate it spherical. No transforming it from flat to spherical.
But they
Right,
need it
so the
because maps are
Habersign
flat.
formula.
They need it because maps are flat, so they had to transform it from a globe into a plane.
Yeah, but the flat maps came
No.
from a flat world with a sphere of the heavens above it, or around it, if you want to look at it that way. Technically above it, and then they sandwich the two over the one over the other, north and south. So when you assert north and south hemispheres within the celestial sphere model, you've still got two flat planes, one on top of the other in that model. Well, in any event, you've got to go from that to mapping out longitude and latitude lines to then project those points based on the circles and movements of the stars and your angle measurements to them up back onto a cylinder to then roll out the cylinder to give you a flat map like the Mercator or the Gaull-Peters.
That
Yeah,
sounds
it's actually
very
worse than that,
complicated.
though. It's worse than that. what they actually do is someone can have a sextant and be on a ship at sea, take an angle, as well as doing all the corrections, the height of void correction, and everything they need to do. Gain a distance, let's just say they get a 45-degree angle to a celestial body. That'll be a 2,700 nautical mile horizontal distance. They can take that angle in any direction on that boat, in any direction. And that horizontal angle will always equate in a horizontal within a horizontal distance to the 1.1508, right, conversion rate between nautical and statute miles, always, without fail. Then they take that, they turn that into the radius for a circle of equal altitude, which is a totally horizontal plane. Then they go through that process two more times. That's a massive horizontal area that's being measured, where every horizontal distance will always match the 1.1508 nautical to statute conversion rate, always. Then they put they put these things that they've already measured onto a universal transverse Mercator map, which is admittedly completely distorted. And then they undistort it and add the R value with their Haversine formula. And that's what they do. They distort it first so they can undistort it and put it on a globe via what they call great circle routes, which are just straight line distances. That's what they do.
But if the Earth's a sphere and you navigate it as a sphere, then why would you have to apply a transformative equation like the Haversine formula to it?
Exactly.
Perfect. I rumpused you when you started last time because I didn't pick up on the fact you were saying it, but I'm glad it got through once uninterrupted. Correct. Now you can have the reply. You wouldn't. If it's a sphere, you just measure and navigate it as a sphere. You wouldn't apply a transformative equation to get it to be spherical. It would already be spherical. So you wouldn't need to if Earth was a sphere.
I'm going to give you a numpty misunderstanding and say, yeah, but it's because all maps are flat, so they had to do that.
No, you're talking about Haversine to
Maps
get it.
is the only, maps is how the modeling started.
Hold on, Owen.
Right?
You've got a misconception. Can someone just explain what the Haversine formula
I
actually
know.
does?
I'm making that misunderstanding on purpose to reflect the numpty believer.
That's fine, but we'll deal with it. That's fine.
Are you saying, Erwin, that there's a reverse Haversine?
Oh,
No,
look,
no.
somebody
Just somebody
in the chat
explain what.
actually confirmed what I said.
Let's get John. You two are just going to trash this out, and I don't want that. John, just explain what the process of applying the Haversine formula is done for. What's its purpose? Transforming what?
It's to bend the circle of equal altitude onto a sphere.
You all hear that?
Well, it does two things, actually.
Well, numpties don't. They're not
does two
hearing
things.
that.
Loud and
Brian.
clear.
Hang on,
Okay.
hang on.
Arwin and
Hang
Neil.
on.
Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Nathan. It does two things. It also corrects from the distortion that has been created within the distance, the horizontal distance. Once they put these circles of equal altitude onto a universal transverse Mercator, so they distort. They take a correct measurement in horizontally take a correct measurement, which can be thousands of miles in distance across a horizontal plane. Then they distort that and everything that's connected to that, circles of equal altitude, etc. And then they undistort the distances that they distorted and curve the longitude lines to create circles of great circle routes. So it's not just that they're creating great circle routes; they're also undistorting a distance that they distort. That's the trick. Why would you measure? It's like the claim is nearly so stupid that they're claiming that when a navigator uses a sextant and takes a measurement of 45 degrees to a celestial body at sea, that the distance between that navigator and the GP of that point is not 2,700 nautical miles. That's basically what they're trying to claim, when it is but if they distort that when they put it onto their distorted universal transverse Mercator map, then they undistorted the distance that they've distorted and add in the R value curved along the longitude lines.
Can I have a shot at it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been on my soapbox enough.
No, it's okay. So the angle measurement is done by a sextant. A sextant is an angle measuring device. An angle is two straight lines meeting at a common point called the vertex. So obviously, it's a flat Earth that the angle is being derived from. Then it's projected out. If you can think of a protractor, the arc of the protractor is being projected out to the point where the GP of the sun or star and the GP of the observer with the sextant is now placed on the arc curved surface. So they get it from the equatorial plane, it's projected out to the celestial sphere, and then reprojected back through the Haversine formula to create those positions on a curved surface rather than where it was derived from, which is a flat plane.
Okay, Adam, you there?
I am. I'm just opening up my PC now, mate. So I should just go straight in.
Okay. Well, while Adam's changing his connection and going onto his PC, John, can you give us a preamble? Is that possible on the spot?
Well, Jaron had made a claim that water boils at different temperatures in different containers, which we all said to that, well, you know, there's a Nobel Prize waiting for you if you're able to debunk the Celsius scale. You know, that's a pretty big deal. And then he made reference to, well, what are we going to define boiling as? You know, are we going to call it the first bubble? Or, well, all these things, when he cited the journal that he got this information from and the article within that journal, all these questions were answered in that article. He just never referenced them. But Adam went ahead and read on. I guess Jaron decided to stop reading and found where their conclusion debunked everything that Jaron had cited the article for, which is really embarrassing if you're, you know, if that's your citation and your citation debunks your claim. That's humiliating. And that's probably why he didn't read that last part. I could see that.
Hopefully that's enough segue for you, Adam.
Yeah.
I've got your screen presented.
You got it. Cool. Yeah, I mean, this was put up, and you know, this is more my field. So I was very interested, and I noticed the name of the paper that was up there. So
Just before you go on, what is your field, Adam? Make sure you speak nice and clear into your mic.
well, I'm a pharmacist, so I'm trained specifically in how drugs work, but also formulation design. So how tablets are made, aerosols, all those sorts of things. And this sits in my old kind of pharmaceutics class. So I was quite interested because these are things you've got to control. You want to be using boiling points, etc., as fixed things. So I thought I'll have a good read with an open mind. The first thing I noticed is this is not a scientific paper. I think I've said this before, the term Christmas miscellany, Nathan, which in the journals, the professional journals, you tend to get round about Christmas, people write things like this, which is a kind of nice, entertaining and informative news feature, article piece, yeah, which will sum up somebody's learning and history and make a few points and describe the history of whatever they're discussing along the way and how we learn and what we learn. This appears to be what this is. It's a gentleman called Hasok Chang, who has replicated some of the bits in 2004, and you can see this is written up in 2008. However, most of what he's relating to and the citation comes from the late 1700s, and in some points is attributable to our old friend Mr. Cavendish. So I think we've all heard the claims that are being put within here, different bits and bobs in terms of different boiling points, etc., etc. Here we go. Look, history goes through a very long-winded way, pictures, all sorts of stuff. But we're going through quite a few different situations where they're doing these experiments, testing it, seeing this, seeing that, seeing the other. And I said, this is a while ago, but the crux of it is they're going through, well, if this does this, how do we have any certainty in things? And this team tends to be at the latter end. So this is quite an interesting point. So what exactly is boiling then? If one considers that boiling begins when the bubbles start breaking the surface, then it seems the water begins to boil around 96. In fact, just around where Adams had marked it in figure 1. This is quite active boiling around 98 degrees, after which vehement boiling starts. The temperature does then seem to settle at 100. So what's being described here is just phases up to the boiling point, a settled boiling point. And people are noticing this, seeing what links, what types of bubbles you get, what kind of bubble behavior you're getting, what is the causation of that bubble behavior? Is the container in which it's in a factor in terms of the type of bubble that's formed? These are all lots of things. And as they go through this, they come to the conclusion, if you're doing stuff in a lab, use a metal or glass, yeah? They're the best things for ensuring even temperature, a heat transmission. Now, there are oddities they're doing by controlling things, coating glass in sulfuric acid so that there's no way a bubble can form, so making it super smooth so there's no points where you can get bubble formation. And they're finding there that you could then superheat water. You've probably done the opposite of this at home in the past. Water's a funny molecule because of some of the bonds that's in it. So it has the ability to retain extra heat and also not freeze, even if it's below 0. So if you think sometimes in the fridge, you can put water in, it'd be absolutely, the water looks, it's liquid still. You put something in it, a spoon or anything, it instantly freezes. So it's talking about some of those nuances of the way water behaves. And it's showing that you could get with degassing the air, you can get it, and then slowly heating it up, you can get it up to 100 odd degrees, 110, I think. But what they do point out is be very, very careful here, because when you stick your thermometer in, it will explode. It will explode because suddenly everything will start boiling. And then if you leave these things, you might get it up to a certain, but at any particular point, it will level out. And this is what it's saying. After vehement boiling starts, so once everything's reached equilibrium at the point, then it will settle down to around 100 degrees. And this is what it talks a little bit here in different vessels, putting metal chips in, how you can affect the, there we go, action of boiling chips, which we do in labs, you know, just to kind of maintain even heat transmission throughout the full liquid. There we go. So these are works relating to 1772 and around there. So really old stuff, which is like, so it's important because this is how we got to this knowledge. And this, I suppose, is the crux of what the article is teaching you. And it's asking you, well, what is boiling? You know, fundamentally, and then QE mentioned this, fundamentally boiling is the point where water liquid is turning into water vapor. And this is saying, well, if we don't have a definitive temperature that this is happening, how can we make thermometers? It's a really valid point.
Can I ask something?
No,
Okay.
I'm not finished. Just give me 5 minutes, Owen, and then I'm nearly there, and
No
then
problem.
we'll come to it. But the last bit of this is, like I said, this is over time, people learning, figuring out, oh God, if I put the thermometer in here, it can explode. If I put it in here, I get this temperature, I put it, if you use this. And what they realized is, well, we're measuring the temperature of the water. but we're supposed to be measuring the temperature of the phase transmission. And when we measure in the water, there's all sorts of variables that come into account that we need to control. Okay, but actually, at the point where water liquid turns into water vapor, that's also the same phase transition point. So why not measure it there? And that's kind of what the conclusion they came to. So I'll just read this last bit of this page, and it basically sums it up. I will preface it just a little bit here. It's talking about basically the best way to get water to boil without having to worry is don't do too much. Don't just let it be. Don't sterilize your vessels. Don't do all of this. Just act normal. Don't do anything to it, and pretty much you won't get variation in boiling of water. However, happy-go-lucky sloppiness is not the most robust strategy for building scientific knowledge in the end, as the Royal Society Committee realised quite well. The committee's lasting contribution, the last of the three factors contributing to the fixity of the boiling point, was to find one clear method of reducing the variations of the boiling point due to miscellaneous causes. The most accurate way of adjusting the boiling point is not to dip the thermometer into the water, but expose it only to the steam. Somehow using the boiled off steam rather than the boiling water itself seemed to eliminate most of the intractable variations in the temperature. Interesting that, isn't it? But when we take it away from the vessel with the variations in and just go to the point of just pure water, just the water vapor, all of those variations disappear. So I'll just read the final quote from them. The heat of the steam therefore appears to be not sensibly different in different parts of the same pot. Neither does there appear to be any sensible difference in its heat, whether the water boils fast or slow, whether there be a greater or less depth of water in the pot, or whether there be a greater or less distance between the surface of the water and the top of the pot. So that the height of the thermometer tried in steam in vessels properly closed seems to be scarcely sensibly affected by the different manner of trying the experiment. The recommendation to use steam came most strongly from Cavendish, who had already made the same proposal in his review of the instrument used to the Royal Society. I'll leave it at that.
Wow. Fascinating. So,
Go on, Owen.
yeah, it is a complicated thing, right? To me, what I learned at a very young age is that the evaporation due to heat of water actually starts before 100 degrees, I think around like somewhere in the 80s. And the thing is, though, that what I learned is that even if you then introduce more heat, all that happens is just that like more than 100 degrees, the water will just evaporate quicker, but effectively it will stay around 100 degrees.
Okay.
Right? But this is interesting about the steam.
Thank you,
It's called
Owen.
the latent heat of vaporization, and you will get water. So water molecules will share that latent heat with each other, which is why even at room temperature, water will evaporate off.
Okay.
When you boil
However,
very slowly.
However,
Yeah.
the assertion of methodology dumbed down with an explanation of water boiling as a phenomena isn't the question, what point in temperature does water boil? The question is, what causes water to boil? That's the question. So, while we are using a dumbed down explanation to simplify the methodology that establishes in the hypothesis, if A, the cause that you assume will cause your effect you are studying, then B, the effect you are studying, and the contrapositive, which is if A, your presumed cause of the thing you are studying, then not B, not the effect induced by you varying your presumed cause. That's a hypothesis. If A, then B, and if A, not B. Now, this is what the philosophers of science came up with to form empiricism upon variation of A. In this case, heat. So we established that with the application of our presumed cause of the effect we are studying, the effect being water boiling. Not what temperature water boils at. Why does it boil? Well, in the hypothesis, you have a presumed cause of that effect. That's an independent variable, A, in my example and logic. A is heat. If A, that's if heat, then B, that's water boiling, is your alternative scientific prediction, otherwise known as a hypothesis, which also has alongside it the contrapositive known as a null. If A, my presumed cause of the effect we are studying, that's heat, then not B, not water boiling. Now, upon variation of A, that's application of heat to water, then you will either cause water to boil, in which case you have validated your alternative hypothesis. You have proven it, or you apply heat if A, and water does not boil. So, the only things we need to know is how much heat. Well, you can give that in a control sense, because everything that's not being varied, that's heat. Not trying to ascertain what temperature. The arbitrary mathematical scale we assign isn't what we're concerned with. It's the cause. So
Well,
cause
I think it's
is what we're trying to establish. That's all we're trying to get across to Jaren, Globebusters, Bob specifically, who I've done this many years ago, and I'm having to repeat myself now. It's all we're interested in. The cause of the effect, and the effect is boiling water. Not what temperature. That's it.
With
Well,
that, just before you go, John, in all of this paper, that established scientific fact is a given and implicit in what they do and test here within all of these things. And none of the things that they're testing do they try to make water boil without the use of heat. In every instance, it's given and accepted that to make the water boil, we're going to need to add heat. What they're investigating here is some of the oddities. As I've described, a lot of the oddities are coming out of the apparatus, as opposed to how to do it accurately, which is to take your measurement away from the apparatus at the same phase point. So that's just to reiterate, the fact that the reason water boils is you're adding heat is a given and implicit in all of the understanding of this document. I'm done, John.
And it's used because it's implicit. That's why it was used by me and originally by Quantum Eraser as the example. Everybody understands implicitly that the application of the causal influencer is heat. You must apply that cause to get the effect. So you can simplify that into cause, heat, effect, water boiling. Contrapositive null hypothesis being heat, if applied, won't cause water to boil. And only one of those two things can and will be demonstrated as proven, true, fact at the end of the process. You apply heat and it can only do one or the other of those two things. It can either cause it to boil, in which case you've established a cause and effect relationship. If heat, then water boiling, in the most dumbed down way we can explain science to people. Or, if heat applied, water won't boil. Now, that is so dumbed down so that you can understand that at the end of that process, something's getting proven. Because that's what the scientific method offers. Proof. In either instance, you're gonna prove one or the other. Either the water will boil when you apply heat, or it won't boil when you apply heat. Once you establish that you apply heat and it boils, you know that the causal influencer is heat. Now, if you remove that causal influencer and start fiddling with bowls, the water won't boil. Because a scientifically proven fact is that water needs heat applied for it to boil in nature. For all of you clowns that want to tell me about the pressure differential, you show me where some sort of pressure difference is causing water to boil in nature, because that's exclusively what science is interested in. The naturally observed phenomena that we experience in our physical world, that's exclusively what we're interested in here at Flat Earth Debate. The natural world, because that's what we've been lied to about. And you know what? Science is exclusively interested in just that. So that's my interest. I'm only interested in the physical and natural world, and that's all that science, not being reified, the method thereof, when applied, is also dealing with. Cause and effect relationships in our physical and natural world, naturally observed phenomena. And that powerful tool of empiricism has been used against us to claim we're on a ball when they say science says, or my paper, my peer review, my man in white coat. And none of those things are science. What is science if A, then B, or if A, not B, actualized by varying A to see if it caused B? That's a scientific prediction and experiment in one breath. It's very basic. That's why we're using boiling water, because everybody knows you have to apply heat as the cause. Proven when you apply it and water boils. Disproving the null that application of heat doesn't cause water to boil. One or other's going to be proven, and is when you apply heat to water. So what do we get from the clown shows that have used the same exact magic trick on you, the flat earthers watching? Well, what do we get? We get science doesn't prove anything. Yeah, it bloody does. What? We're going to talk about the temperature of where water boils, if and only if heat's applied. Because that's how it's boiling in nature if you're studying it. And that's what we're interested in, nature, our world. Because that's what we do here. We don't go around punting new age crap about stuff we can't prove that's non-manifest. That's not our bag. That's the bag of clown shows. We're not that. Anybody got anything else to add?
Yeah, the thing is Jaron introduced the red herring to the point, which you went back to the point just then, and you're not wrong to do. But the red herring itself, as Adam shown, is incorrect, because as he went through all the variations, what the definition of boiling is vapor pressure. It's dealing with a phase change. And that phase change to a vapor pressure is exclusively measured at 100 degrees Celsius.
Perfect.
I would just like
Brian,
to
you
say
have the last
before we
word.
finish.
Go ahead.
Just before we finish.
No, go ahead.
Just for Jaron Campanella to understand, when he's talking about, incorrectly talking about 98 degrees, 101 degrees, 99 degrees, and all these different containers, he's forgetting that he's talking about our actual temperature. The cause is the temperature, even though he was wrong with his assertions, because he didn't, maybe he did, maybe he didn't read the full of what he had in front of him. But the point is that he was talking about a temperature, completely missing the point. It's a heat, it's a temperature, heat, causing the thing, boiling. Is he stupid?
Yeah, let's not
That's what
get
I was
into
gonna
this.
say,
Yes, we
Brian.
could all spend a few minutes saying how stupid is this guy when we've dumbed it down to the point of almost absurdium. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, thank you for smashing the super chat, as Sasha did, so I'll read that out. People do not make photo of the clock on 20 miles. People do not make photo of the clock on 20 miles. I think he's talking about Barrow and Finesse. We'll get back to your super chat in the after show, Sasha. But thank you very much indeed to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. Another massive thank you to today's Discord. I'm just getting used to Gilded and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!